Some weeks are just harder than others. Maybe you have a lot of work that's piled up in job. Maybe you're going through a breakup or you're having fights with your partner. Maybe you have some emergencies back home, or you might be just feeling down and you cannot really pinpoint the reason why that is. I've noticed that life is just not one straight line. You have periods where you're super high and you have periods where you're super low, and I think that is just normal. However, when I do have periods where I feel super low, I figured out that doing these 5 things has really made a difference in my life. There are some things that you can do intentionally to make your day and well-being better, and I'm hoping by sharing these things I'm gonna make a difference and help you to get through your dips as well. You've all heard it, I've heard it, we've all seen it. Journaling. This is my trusty book that I take everywhere. And if you ask me what is the best way to go about journaling, I would say, I don't know. You have to figure out what works the best for you. However, what I can say 100% is that it works. For me, it wouldn't really matter if it's day, night, or morning. I just do it whenever I have a lot of things happening in my head. How I would go about it is, when I'm feeling really heavy, I don't really know what I'm thinking, I can't really interpret my thoughts really well or understand what's going on, I would open it and start jolting things down. Sometimes it would be essays that really make a lot of sense. Sometimes it would just be sentences and thoughts that are not really coherent, but once I write them down, I notice that I do feel better. I notice that my thoughts seem more organized, I can make more sense out of it, and the emotions that I'm going through are really visible and are jumping out of the pages and being very clear to me. It's sort of like all this mental clutter that's happening in my brain gets written down and organized, and it kind of makes sense. I will say that this is the book that I don't use strictly to just declutter and write things down. It's also the book or the notebook where I would put things I'm grateful for, where I would put conversations that were interesting and kind of sparked my energy and passion for something. This book holds the information to my future plans, to my creative processes, to essentially everything that's happening in my head is also in here. The point is, sort of, once it's out there, I can breathe again and I don't feel like I'm carrying everything up here anymore. On stressful weeks, therapy is really something that grounds me. It took me a really long time to actually learn how to do therapy, and it took me a really long time to figure out how to do it and what I can bring and what I can resolve. And once I figured that out, it was a game changer. How I've learned to do therapy was that I reflected after the session, I made notes, I consciously chose what I want to discuss, what I want to bring, and what I want to essentially resolve with my therapist. It is something that I've put off for the longest time in my life, but once I started doing that, and it's been a year now since I'm in therapy, my life has completely made a 180. I'm much more self-aware. I'm very much more present, emotionally intelligent and aware, and I think I show up for people differently to how I used to a year ago. Therapy for me has been the biggest mind switch and the biggest change in my life. If you're just a little bit like me, you are a person who intellectualizes things, you're a person who goes about their life and sort of tries to resolve the problems by themselves and sort of thinks that they can do everything by themselves. But really, it's not even about that. It's about sitting in front of another person that is offering you a different perspective, that is maybe offering you a different interpretation and giving you the aid and the methods that are gonna make your life easier. It is about breaking those cycles, those stress days, those patterns that you maybe have, or you maybe don't even know that you have, and intentionally finding the solutions, reworking them, and reframing your life and how you look at things. It has been the biggest addition to my well-being and to how I'm able to process stressful, heavy days, or maybe just good days. And it's like training your brain for resilience, basically. When everything feels super heavy, I would try to push myself to do something new. I'm a very big believer that we should say yes more often. We should push ourselves to do things that are sort of out of our comfort zone and just open our horizons to new things, because we never know what we might enjoy. So last week, for example, I attended this Baroque dance lesson classes, and I'm not a dancer, by the way, but we were sort of learning how to dance this typical dances for that era, and it was such a fun experience that I wouldn't never in my life ever attend if I wasn't more open to experience different things. So when things pile up, it's important that you take care of yourself, whether that's in a big way or in a small way. What I mean by that is taking yourself to a new cafe, start reading a good book that just opens a portal to somewhere else, somewhere that you've never been to, and you can just, jump into it, read it, and be somewhere else for that hour. Give your brain a break, whether that is cooking a new recipe, whether that is going to a store and buying yourself a crochet kit and you start crocheting. I think humans are wonderful. I think humans are capable of so many things, and I think it's such a shame we're not more open to trying different things, to exploring our hobbies and our curiosities and passion. I think predominantly when we're trying to de-stress or where everything feels too heavy, we try to shift our attention to our phones and just doom scroll for hours, which I think has had a very detrimental effect on our brain, and it's really saddening to see. I'm no more guilty than other people. I like to spend my time on TikTok as well, but now I'm being very mindful and conscious about trying to spend my time differently. So whether that's reading, going to a new restaurant, trying and cooking a new recipe, or maybe just picking up a book that is sitting on your shelf and you've never read and just giving that a go. Once you start living intentionally and more present day to day, you're gonna start feeling better as well. I don't work out. I am a person who's very hard to find that is going to follow a routine and be very conscientious about working out and pushing myself to go to the gym. However, when I do go through a rough patch, I try to move my body, not by going to the gym, but really going for long walks. Of course, everyone's different. You have to find what form of activity and what level of activity is good for you and works for you. What I found for myself is that going for 30-minute walk is really gonna help me clear my brain out. And some weeks is walking, but some weeks I might hit the gym and just lift some weights and feel really good about myself when I'm walking home with a terrible muscle pain. But the key is to move your body, because movement is reset button for that stress that has built up in your body. And there's been multiple studies shown that movement and exercise is in fact healing your brain. So if you're not being intentional with moving your body and taking care of it, I suggest you start that in whichever form is gonna work for you. Maybe that's a small walk. Sometimes I also do a little yoga session in my room, or maybe just do a TikTok dance in my bedroom and make a fool out of myself. But even that is better than doing absolutely nothing for your body. So go ahead and go for that walk. I think having conversations about rough weeks, what you're going through, whether that's with your parents, whether that's with your family or your significant other, or just with your cat or dog, is really beneficial, because it helps you also get a different perspective, but also not feeling lonely. I think there's a thin line between being alone and feeling lonely, and you have to be masterful in how you navigate this period, right? Because I think when people are going through rough patches, they like to alienate themselves, and that's not good. So whenever I'm trying to fill my cup, I make sure that I reach out to people that are like-minded, that fill me up with energy, that I get good conversation with substance out, and also feel energized after I finish talking to them. I also make sure that I call my mom, or a family member that that's always gonna kind of know what you're going through and kind of understand and sympathize with your situation or your bad week or your problems. So make sure that there's one go-to person that you have in your life that is going to be there for you, whether that's a friend or mom or a pet, and essentially make you feel better. I think the key is to balance it out. So what I've been doing is I've been calling my family, I've been catching up with friends, I've been replying to those text messages that I've been putting off for ages, and now I kind of feel bad replying to them because so much time has passed. But I've also been spending time alone intentionally, and that is taking myself to a cafe, solving Sudoku, reading a book, going for an ice cream without my phone. And I think, that sort of mix of everything makes me recharge in different ways. So those are the 5 things that I do every week, especially when I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed or stressed. This is how I try to fill my cup. I would be very interested if there are any of these little things that you also do that keep you recharged and energized and sort of, keep on going, even if times are very rough. So I'll be very keen to hear them. And if you've tried any of the things that I've mentioned out, I would be also very interested to hear your perspective on them as well. And I just want to emphasize that I don't do all of them every day or even every week. Sometimes there are days that I manage to do all of them. Some weeks, I do 1 or 2. But what I've noticed is that they make a difference. So as soon as I do 1 or 2 of them a day, I do feel energized, I do feel better, I do feel more mental clarity and more myself. And it is okay if you don't manage to do all of them. By no means this is a list and that you have to follow religiously, but it's just something that's there that you can rely on if things get hard. I hope everything works out for you, and even if everything feels very heavy and hard, it's not always going to be like this. As I've said, life is not one straight line. At some point, it's going to turn back upwards, and when it does, I'm going to be cheering you on even harder.